Is it maths? Or science? Or even languages? All made simple at Brighter Minds Academy.
Hey kids, have you ever wondered how we breathe in? Why do we have lungs? And what happens when we take a deep breath in? Well, don't worry about it because Brighter Minds Academy is here to make it easy for you. So buckle up because today we're going on a journey inside our respiratory system. So let's breathe in and out and get started. Breathing is something that we do all the time. Without even thinking about it, on average we breathe about 20,000 times a day. Whoa, that's a big number. Now, your respiratory system has a set of organs that allows a person to breathe and make sure that oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged throughout the body. The respiratory system has two major jobs, which are external and internal respiration. But let's break this down. External respiration is the exchange of air between the body and the air in our atmosphere, whereas bringing oxygen to our heart and other parts of the body and getting rid of carbon dioxide is known as internal respiration. Moving on, the respiratory system also has certain functions to perform, which are supplying the body with oxygen and disposing of carbon dioxide, filtering air inhaled, helping us to smell, helping in getting rid of excessive heat and water from the body, regulating blood pressure, and finally helping us to create sound. Now let's discuss the process of breathing. Breathing has two parts, which is inhaling air and exhaling air. First, let's talk about inhalation. Inhalation is the process of drawing gases into our lungs. It is also known as inspiration. On the other hand, exhalation is the process of forcing gases outside of our lungs, which is commonly CO2 or carbon dioxide. It is also known as expiration. Adding on, it is important for us to identify all the organs in our respiratory system and also learn about the journey of air in our body. So let's label the diagram together. First, the air entering our body comes to our nose or nasal cavity. Here, the air gets warmed and filtered. Your nasal cavity has small hairs and mucus that traps all the dirt from the air before it enters your lungs. Now that your air is warmed and filtered, it enters your trachea, or in simpler words, your windpipe. But before the windpipe, we have a voice box called larynx, which really works and makes sounds when you exhale. Now, your air goes through the trachea into the two tubes called bronchial tubes that carry that air into the two lungs. Now, in your lungs, there are even smaller pipes that take the air from the bronchial tubes and transfer to it to the alveoli. These tubes are known as bronchioles. Moving on, now the air has reached where the exchange happens. The exchange happens in alveoli. Now, what are alveoli? Alveoli are small grape-like sacs of air that are covered by really tiny veins called capillaries. The capillaries here bring blood into our lungs and create a net around the alveoli. The exchange of gases happens by the process of diffusion. Now, what is the process of diffusion? Now, the air entered has molecules of both oxygen and carbon dioxide, and molecules are small particles that cannot be seen with naked eyes. More on them later. Now, coming back to diffusion. Diffusion is known to be the movement of molecules from an area where there is a higher number of molecules to an area where there is less number of molecules. Now, I know this could be a little confusing, but remember that diffusion is the process where molecules move from a place where there are a lot of same types of molecules to a place where there are no molecules of the same type.
Similarly, alveoli have more oxygen molecules, and the blood inside capillaries has no oxygen molecules but tons of carbon molecules. Now, oxygen molecules diffuse or move in our blood from alveoli, and carbon molecules from the blood move back to alveoli so that they can be pushed out of the body. This is how the exchange of gas happens through the process of diffusion. Now, if you still find it difficult, it would be a good idea to replay that section. Now that alveoli are full of carbon dioxide, they go back through the same way and are exhaled from our nasal cavity. Now you know the journey of air, but there is one more organ that creates space for lungs so that they can suck in as much as air they can. It also separates your digestive and respiratory system. It is known as your diaphragm. Now the exchange of air happens very fast, and the lungs must be fit. Lifestyle factors such as smoking and exposure to polluted air can cause serious damage to our lungs. Have you ever wondered how fish, frogs, or any underwater animal breathes air? Well, let's talk about fish. Now fish doesn't really have a lung, but they have gills that help them breathe. Same as air, water also has oxygen molecules that enters through their mouth and passes through their gills. Now, gills act similarly to lungs. They also have blood vessels that carry or takes in the oxygen and transports it to other parts of the body. And the water rich in carbon dioxide is disposed of from the fish's body through their gills. But now it's time to talk about frogs. Frogs have an interesting way of breathing. Now when frogs are above the water, they tend to use their lungs. Frogs make their mouth bigger and allows the air to enter from their nose into their mouth. The air then gets pushed into their lungs where the exchange happens, and then the blood transports oxygen to other parts of their body. But here comes the question, how do they breathe underwater? Do they have gills or some kind of lungs that works underwater? Well, frogs can also breathe from their skin. Yes, frogs have extremely thin skin attached to the blood vessels. Due to their extremely thin skin, the oxygen passes through directly. Therefore, frogs have outstanding breathing skills as they can breathe through their lungs, their skin, or even the lining of their nostril and mouth. To recap, the respiratory system has two tasks, which is internal and external respiration. The respiratory system exchanges gases in our body and disposes carbon dioxide. The respiratory system is responsible for providing oxygen, removing carbon dioxide, filtering air, helping in smelling the air, and removing excessive heat and water from our body. Moving on, breathing has two parts, inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation is taking in air, whereas exhalation is breathing out the air. Now, the air goes first into our nasal cavity, then trachea, and then through our bronchial tubes, which takes the air into the lungs, and then to bronchioles. Bronchioles then transfer the air to alveoli, where the exchange of gas happens through the process of diffusion. Moving on, we talked about how fishes breathe. Now, fishes takes in the oxygen-rich water from their mouth into their gills, and then the gills take in the oxygen from the water and releases carbon dioxide into the water. And finally, the water goes out of the body through their gills. Moving on, we also talked about how frogs breathe. Frogs takes in the air from their nose and fill it in their mouth and pushes the air into their lungs. And when they are underwater, they can breathe from their skin. Since frogs have extremely thin skin, it helps them breathe directly.
This time we end today's video by discussing all about a respiratory system. I hope you got an excellent understanding for what this system is about. If your child needs tutoring lessons for any subjects from grade 1 to 8, please contact us on our email address given below for more information. Thank you very much for watching today's video, and until next time, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.